What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here. This one, I don't want to say snuck under the radar. Uh, so, our friends over at Tag, the Tag bots, are switching things up a little bit. And normally I would just kind of let this one lie, but I found it kind of intriguing and curious for your all thoughts on if you think this is good, bad, indifferent, more or less willing to give them a try or not. So, what have they done? Uh, Over the last couple days, and this was kind of tricky to find. If you go to their website, it's like not really plainly there. Maybe I just missed it. I had to track this down on like Facebook groups, but they introduced Tag X. They are launching essentially a new grading scale that is more in line with what people are used to. So it's a 10-point scale instead of the 1,000-point scale that they had before. They are keeping the 1,000-point scale. That's called Tag S. Y'all following along, get the whiteboard out. And maybe I should have done a whiteboard. I've never done a whiteboard video. This would have been a good first ever whiteboard video in the style of my friend Swaggle House. And then what is it? SCV does a lot of whiteboard videos. Maybe I'll get on that shtick. So Tag X is a 10-point grading scale. It still has a report, but it's not as detailed as the dig report. It's basically like grader's notes, essentially, is the vibe that I get from this. It's still generated from their air quotes AI stuff. The other interesting part of all this is that they changed their pricing all around. The Tag folks seem to be taking this with a very mixed bag, I guess. I'll let the Tag bots sign off in the comments below. It's like if anyone watched the new version of Battlestar Galactica, there was like a Cylon Civil War. I think that's what's kind of going on over in the Tagverse right now. The robots are fighting with each other. So Tag X, and they're also doing Tag V, which is verified authentic. Tag X will be $12 a card. So previously, to grade with Tag on the 1,000-point scale, it was $14 a card. This new 10-point scale, so think PSA, SGC, CGC, to a degree, because they have 0.5s in there, but you get the general overall vibe. This new 10-point scale will be $12 per card. The old Tag S, I think this is the first time I've seen this, on Black Friday raised the prices, goes from $14 a card to $25 a card. And this is the section that I'm looking at here. So if you want the 1,000-point scale, you now have to pay a hefty premium for it. That seems to be what have the Tag bots riled up, is the drastic increase in price for the 1,000-point scale. We'll circle back into some of this in a second. They're now also accepting Pokemon cards. That was the other addition to this. And then they also switched around, and this part was a little confusing to me because I'm never used them before, so if someone has some hindsight or insight on this, feel free to let me know in the comments below. They're not, the submission kits are now optional. They used to send you like this big submission kit that you would do everything in, and it would be all the supplies, and you would send it out. I think they still do that if you reach a certain price threshold, but that was not clear in this announcement. But if you want a submission kit, you now have to pay for it, and it's $40, where in the past, I believe you got that for free if you were sending in a certain amount of cards. That's the part I'm the most wishy-washy on, so do your due diligence on that one. I tried to poke around on it, and even in this, it wasn't very clear if it's still included or not somewhere. But it is $40 if you want to purchase a submission kit, but you no longer have to use it. But that was another thing I think people were accustomed to that were using this service, and now all of a sudden, that got kind of pulled back. So the question is the why. Why, you rolled out a 1,000-point scale with this very detailed report, which is still technically there. You put it out at a $14 price point, and then I think what's going on is that people are feeling a little rug pulled. They got used to, hey, cool, I could send in whatever cards I want to send in if you're a user of Tag. Get the 1,000-point grading scale. It's $14 a card. Great. Even if the resale value is not there, maybe they like them for PC, whatever the case might be. And now, if you still want that, it's $25 a card. That's $11 per card. Not quite double, but it's close to get that same level that you were accustomed to. In a time, bear in mind, where a lot of grading is getting cheaper, not more expensive. Most of the other all the other companies for the most part are lowering their prices to get cards in the door or generate business or whatever the case might be. And here we have Tag raising their prices on their kind of claim to fame, the 1,000-point scale with the super detailed report, and replacing it with a more inline grading scale with 1 through 10. I didn't really get into the details on it. Here it is here. Includes the 1 to 10 standard grading scale. I don't know if they're doing 0.5 grades or not. That's not specified here, so I don't know if they're going to have like a 9.5 or if they're just going the straight PSA model, but even PSA has half grades other than the 9.5. But they're calling it now keep this, so many acronyms with this company, a DINGS report instead of a DIG report. Defects identified with notable grading significance. I don't know why you just can't call that grader's notes, but it's fine. DINGS report instead of a DIG report. The DIG report you only get with Tag S. See why I said I think I needed a whiteboard video? DINGS you get with Tag X. So essentially, if you send an Ultramodern card into Tag X, it gets a 9. The DINGS report's going to say, hey, this card was off-center, or you have a soft bottom right corner. And it'll probably be way more detailed than that, knowing how their DIG report looks. But that's the general macro level concept. So it's kind of interesting that they rolled out this fancy 1,000-point scale, got everyone kind of hooked on it, their early adopters, and now are saying, you can still get that, but it's going to be more expensive. So let's get into the why. We'll get into a little speculation town here. Why are they doing this? My guess is they're grading about, I think, what was it on the last 2 months worth of data? Like 4,000 or 5,000 cards a month, give or take. I'm assuming whatever the machine is that they're using cannot process fast enough for whatever reason to keep up with or to put out enough cards per month to make it sustainable. So they need something streamlined, which can be done faster and at a lower cost point, because you could go do more cards. I'm assuming you're going to be able to do more cards per hour on the Tag X versus the S, thus making it cheaper. So they needed to do some cost savings and also ramp up production is what I'm speculating here is what the idea was. So we'll see. You know, we've been tracking the monthly numbers with GemRate. He's been providing that data to us. It'll obviously probably take a little bit of time for this to figure itself out. They're still doing drops for Tag X, so it's not wide open. So it's still going to kind of be capped to a degree. But curious if the Tag folks are on board with this, and more curious for thoughts as a non-Tag person. Does this entice you to use them more, less? The greater note, the DINGS report would be kind of cool, but I don't like the vibe of them switching this all around. Like you kind of rolled this out there as one thing, and I really wasn't on board with this to begin with. And now all of a sudden, kind of seemingly out of nowhere, this seems like it was really out of nowhere. Now I don't follow the ins and outs of the Tag discourse. So maybe this was something people were asking for. The vibes I got after the fact on various social comments does not seem like that's the case. But it seems like from a Tag business perspective, this was something they had to do. Maybe they realized the Tag S is just not sustainable at the price point that it is. I know that their end goal is they want essentially machines in shops and around the world. That you'll be able to grade your cards kind of in person, like run it through the thing and it'll do all the things automatically and then spit it out on the other end. And maybe to make that happen, this was a step towards that, but it seems kind of like you promised one thing and now you're kind of turning it around to this other thing, which is I guess a more dumbed down version, essentially. I don't know. The whole thing is just kind of weird. It just seems kind of weird from a business side, I understand what they're doing, but if this was your end game all along, why not just start with this? I guess, just keep it streamlined. It almost feels like it was like we had to work the bugs out with all our guinea pigs on the 1,000 point scale. And now, we've kind of got that stuff figured out. So now we're going to kind of roll out the real thing that we want to use. I don't know. I'm in pure speculation town here on this one. I think their biggest hurdle with this, and this is me, walking through this, doing a video on it, and maybe I could have laid out my thoughts a little bit better. But for a layman, this thing seems confusing as all hell. I'm not going to lie. Like, I get it. Like, I understand it. But for just your average person looking to grade a card, this seems like a nightmare. Tag X, tag S, tag V. We got dings, we got digs. Like, there's all these different acronyms. There's dig plus on there. Like, it just seems very confusing. And this is, and remember, in all reality, we're not like building a rocket ship here, but how many times do I have to explain that a BGS 9.5 is equivalent to a PSA 10, SGC 10, and CGC 10? Like, people in this space, for whatever reason, are not nuanced enough to understand that different companies have a different gem mint scale. And now you want people to keep track of a 10-point scale, a 1,000-point scale, the differences between a dig report, a dings report, and all this other nonsense. And on one hand, you could say, oh, the dings report's cool. It's going to be graders notes, but, finally we have a company doing graders notes. But it sounds like PSA is rolling out graders notes next year. So that eliminates your advantage there to a degree. Yeah, you could cite it's still consistent because it's going through the algo or whatever. But as soon as PSA does graders notes, ladies and gentlemen, the other three are going to roll out graders notes most likely. Maybe not Beckett, but SGC and CGC will 100% come out with some sort of graders notes if PSA pushes it. They'll have to. It's the one thing the bulk of the community wants that they're not doing. So the second PSA does it, they're going to realize, okay, crap, now we have to get on board and do this too, even if it's just for high-end submissions. So, and the other thing still holding tag back, there's just a ton of cards they still don't take. Are they ever going to get to the point where they could take vintage? Are they ever going to get to the point where they can handle thicker cards? They're taking TCG now, so that's a good step in the right direction. There's just still way too many unknowns and a lot of unproven things with this company. And the fact that this kind of came out of nowhere feeds into that for me anyway, where it's like, you know what? Nah, I'm good. If I want something in a nice slab for PC, I'll keep sending it to CGC. If I'm grading it to resale, if I want max value, I'll send it to PSA. If I want it back super fast to do the churn and burn, I'll send it to SGC. And then if I'm a lunatic, I'll send it to Beckett unless it's a thick card or you're chasing a black label on a tops now or something like that. So that's kind of where we sit. As always, curious for your thoughts and comments down below. We will catch you on the next one. Peace.